The deep web encounter. It all started with a curiosity about the dark web. I'd heard about it in passing, mysterious and illegal, where anything can be bought or sold for the right price. Most people steer clear of it, but I was young, bored, and intrigued. I had a VPN, Tor browser, and everything needed to access sites hidden from the surface web. But what I stumbled upon wasn't something I could easily forget. I found a forum that claimed to have links to exclusive content. Nothing unusual at first, a mix of cryptic messages, unverified information, and illicit offers. But then there was a link titled Live Streams. I clicked it, thinking it was a hoax, or maybe just a place for some shady dealings. What I saw on the other side sent a chill down my spine. The stream was live, but not in the way you'd expect. The video displayed a dimly lit room, seemingly empty. For several minutes, nothing happened. I almost convinced myself it was just a glitch. But then, a figure emerged from the corner. A person wearing a mask, their features hidden. They slowly walked toward the camera, their movements deliberate and unsettling. Then the message popped up on the screen. Keep watching. I clicked away quickly, my heart racing. The more I thought about it, the more I regretted seeing it. What had I just witnessed? Was it real? And who was watching it with me? It felt wrong, so wrong that I immediately deleted my browser history and vowed never to venture that deep again. But weeks later, I started receiving strange, anonymous messages. They were brief, cryptic, and felt like they knew too much about me. I never logged onto the dark web again. The Craigslist killer. When I was younger, I used to browse Craigslist for various things. It was mostly for furniture, gadgets, or finding old items like books or vinyl records. It never crossed my mind that something as innocent as buying a coffee table could lead to a horrifying experience. One afternoon, I found an ad for a vintage couch. Exactly the kind I was looking for. The post had a generic picture of the couch, but the price was right, so I messaged the seller. The reply was quick, and they asked if I could meet at a nearby apartment complex. It felt a little off. The apartment wasn't in the best neighborhood, but I was determined to get the couch. I arranged to meet the seller in person. When I arrived, the place looked abandoned. The hallway was eerily quiet, and I hesitated. I texted the seller again, asking for more details, but there was no reply. Suddenly, a man in his mid-30s appeared at the door, his eyes wide, almost too wide. He greeted me in a calm but unnerving way. He was well-dressed, but had an odd aura about him. Something not quite right. He led me inside, and that's when I noticed the subtle clues. There were strange markings on the walls, and the furniture didn't look like it belonged to the man. I was distracted, unsure whether to leave or go through with it. As he turned to show me the couch, I caught sight of a locked closet at the back of the room. I heard something inside, a muffled noise, like a distant whimper. Before I could act on my suspicions, I received a call from a friend, snapping me out of the moment. I took that as my cue to leave. I made some excuse about being late, grabbed my stuff, and rushed out. Later, I found out that the man I'd met was the infamous Craigslist killer, responsible for multiple murders. His next victim might have been me if I had stayed any longer. The black-eyed kids. I had never believed in urban legends. But that all changed when I read a post online one night about the black-eyed kids. An eerie phenomenon where children with solid black eyes appear at people's homes, begging to be let in. Most stories were dismissed as fabrications, but one post stood out to me. It was written in a detailed, unsettling tone, recounting a person's encounter with these strange children. The writer explained how they had been home alone when they heard a knock at the door. Two kids, about 10 or 11 years old, stood on the doorstep. Their clothes were old-fashioned, their eyes completely black. The most disturbing part was the feeling that came with their presence. It was as if the air around them was thick with malice. The kids asked to come inside, claiming they were lost. They didn't seem frightened, nor did they act like normal children. The writer didn't let them in, but felt compelled to continue the conversation, even though a voice inside screamed to shut the door. They stared at him without blinking, their eyes empty, their faces pale, almost alien. Just before the writer slammed the door, the kids whispered in unison, Let us in or else we'll get in. The door was locked and the encounter ended there, but the story haunted me for weeks. I started hearing scratching noises outside my window at night, faint but persistent. I chalked it up to my imagination until one night I glanced outside. For a moment I saw two figures standing in the dark. They weren't children, but the memory of that story came flooding back. I quickly closed the blinds, but the feeling of being watched never left. The Slender Man and stabbing. The internet is full of strange stories, but few are as disturbing as the real-life case of the Slender Man stabbing. I first heard about it on Reddit, where the details of the case were laid out step by step. The story revolved around two 12-year-old girls who, influenced by the Slender Man creepypasta, decided to stab their friend in the woods. It was horrifying to read how these young girls, seemingly ordinary at first glance, became so consumed by the internet myth that they believed they needed to commit murder to prove their loyalty to Slender Man. The victim, miraculously surviving the attack, managed to crawl to safety and was later rescued. The chilling part of the story wasn't just the act of violence itself. It was the sheer detachment of the girls. They didn't seem to understand the severity of their actions. To them, it was part of the game, part of something larger. And the most disturbing fact was that they had planned it all out based on an internet legend. The story reminded me of how the internet can distort reality, how people, especially vulnerable young minds, can be influenced by fiction, leading them to do unspeakable things. It left me questioning what other online communities might be manipulating the thoughts of impressionable people. The Watcher House. A family in Westfield, New Jersey, experienced something that would make anyone question their safety at home. They had just moved into their dream house, but from the very first day, things felt wrong. Letters started arriving at their doorstep, written by someone who called themselves the Watcher. The letters were filled with disturbing details about the family's life, including the names of their children and their favorite activities. The Watcher claimed to have been keeping an eye on the house for years, and now it was the family's turn. Over time, the letters escalated, becoming more menacing and threatening. The family, terrified, sought help from the authorities, but the sender's identity remained unknown. It wasn't until the family moved out and the house was put up for sale again that the letters stopped coming. Years later, the mystery of the Watcher remains unsolved, and the house is considered cursed. The chilling part of this real-life horror story is the feeling of being constantly watched, even in your own home. It's a reminder that sometimes the scariest things aren't the monsters you can see, but the ones you can't. The Red Room. I stumbled upon the tale of the Red Room through a random post on a message board. It was said to be a cursed website, where people were tricked into visiting by pop-up ads or through links hidden in strange corners of the internet. According to the legend, once someone visited the Red Room site, they would see an image of a blood-red room. The longer they stared at it, the more they would hear a voice. It would start off as whispers, then grow louder, until the person could no longer ignore it. Those who had supposedly fallen victim to the Red Room were found dead soon after. Some reports even said their deaths were gruesome, as though the room had somehow come to life and claimed them. The theory was that the room was a trap, designed to feed on the fear and misery of its visitors. While many dismissed the Red Room as just a creepy internet myth, I couldn't shake the eerie feeling that someone somewhere was experimenting with something darker. What if it wasn't just fiction? What if it was a way to manipulate or even harm people, using the anonymity of the web to terrorize them?